All right. I should have been covering the Charlie Kirk assassination and everything that's came afterwards. I should have been covering this every single day on this channel. I haven't. Now I'm going to. This episode or this portion of coverage about Charlie Kirk isn't going to be long. I'm not going to give too many opinions on it for a lot of reasons. One of those being people giving their opinions or getting fired. Crazy stuff is happening to them. But we're going to just take a look at his memorial yesterday in Arizona. We're going to take a look at some facts with it. We're going to take a look at some quotes of people who went there, and we're going to just take a look at the event. So there's an NBC article in I'm going to say this wrong, Reuters. You see it, Reuter. I'm going to read a little bit from this article, read a little bit from an NBC article, and I'm going to just let you guys do a lot of the thinking. You guys do the analysis. Just listen to what I'm saying, all right? So, Kirk praised as a U.S. martyr at memorial where religion and politics merged. This is a picture. This was a very big, very, very big event for the people going out there to celebrate Charlie Kirk. That's his wife right there. Okay. So, Glendale, Arizona, September 21st, so this is yesterday. Some called Charlie Kirk a modern martyr. Others said his death was a pivotal moment for the U.S. The potent blend of politics and religion that captivated the Sunday afternoon memorial service for the slain conservative activist left little doubt that Kirk's death had elevated him to iconic status for the American right, okay? The event at State Farm Stadium outside Phoenix drew some of the most powerful political and religious voices in the country, led by Donald Trump, the president, Vice President J.D. Vance, his widow, Erica, and many others. Its size, intensity, and patriotic pageantry eclipsed many of Trump's own campaign rallies last year. Was Sunday when this came out. This was going on yesterday, so I was watching NFL football very closely. But you know me. You know I always have the little 4 screen. I have like 5 screens up all the time. TV screens, the little, or my computer screens, the 2 or the 4 like screens up on the TV. So I was seeing it, and it had a lot of pageantry. That's a very good word. It looked almost like in November or in 2024 last year when the Republican were doing the Republican National Convention. Just like the look of it, you know, how big it was, the big speeches, the crowd, the vibe of it. It did look like a Republican National Convention, and I don't think that's a bad thing to say. I think that's part of what they wanted because because Kirk was a Republican conservative pundit. And I think that it is supposed to be a celebration of his life and his beliefs. So I think that's a little bit of the plan. But it was interesting to see. It was a little jarring for that first 5 seconds. Like, oh, this is a memorial, but it looks like a RNC convention. I'm not trying to disrespect. Just a quick comment, okay? But let's keep going. But the impact of Kirk's assassination as he spoke on a Utah college campus on September 10th may have most vividly demonstrated by the more 63,000 regular people who filled the stadium to capacity to honor and mourn him. They're saying 63,000. The article that we're going to see here says the NBC article that we're going to read says 92,000. This says 90,000 in attendance. If you look at this like Twitter, little Twitter news threads, over 90,000 people. There was a lot of people in there. I think it was more than 62,000. There was a lot of people, just regular people in there to celebrate the life of Charlie Kirk. And they're saying basically, yeah, cool, Trump and all those other people were there because they're Republicans and all and everything like that. But the amount of just regular Americans that went there is crazy. I know someone that said they know someone that drove or flew or did whatever they did to get there down to Arizona to go and watch this. I know someone that knows someone. So too close for me for my liking. I'm not going to lie. People were going. Here's a quote. Mourner says Kirk's killing was this generation's MLK or JFK. Cindy Walford, 62, said she and her 13 and 15-year-old daughters listen regularly to Kirk, who hosted a podcast and spoke on college campuses. The girls have been hit particularly hard by his death, she said. This is a quote. I really feel this is this generation's Martin Luther King or JFK or even 9/11 that we lived through, she said. This has hit them really hard because Charlie was talking to them. Walford was referring to the assassination of Democratic President John F. Kennedy in 1963, the assassination of civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. in 1968, and the attacks on U.S. targets in New York, Washington, and Pennsylvania on September 11th, 2001. And shout out to this woman. I believe you can believe this is her. Reuters put the pictures up. Cindy Warford. This is her. Her and her family are saying that this is akin to the assassination of MLK, the assassination, of John F. Kennedy, and 9/11. Okay, let's just keep reading. The melding of religion and speechifying at the memorial reinforced the perception that Kirk's shooting death was a galvanizing moment for U.S. conservatives. Rob Hartz, a business analyst from Arizona in his 50s, described Kirk as inspirational and a martyr for conservative values. Kirk ran Turning Point USA, a youth voter turnout organization for Republicans. He was well known for among college students and conservative activists, but the turnout on Sunday showed he became a far bigger figure for the right in death than in life. That's one of the big things. Only one of the things I'm going to say with this. I didn't know he was that big. I knew, of course, of Charlie Kirk. I knew the videos of anything like that. I didn't know he was so big that he was going to start a movement like what's been started. I mean, there's really no more you need to read from this particular article when you get the quote that says, "I really feel this is this generation's Martin Luther King, JFK, or even 9/11." It's like a moment of silence. Just let that ponder in your brain, bro. It's just like, all right, bro. She's dead ass. She's dead ass. She has granddaughters that are 13 and 15. Those granddaughters are somewhere in middle school arguing with a kid about how Charlie Kirk's death is like Martin Luther King dying. Yeah, man. I feel bad for those kids that are arguing like, hey, bro. I could just speak about that for an hour and 30 minutes. I am going to calm myself in now. That's just a crazy. When I read that quote, I just like, what do you do? Like, bro, like, it's just a crazy quote. Okay. Charlie Kirk remembered in more details about the TikTok deal. This is the NBC News. They do an article like this, the biggest news you missed all weekend, and the first little half of it was about Charlie Kirk. So let's read a little bit about this. This says 95,000 people gathered for Charlie Kirk's public memorial Sunday at State Farm Stadium in an overflow arena outside Phoenix, and an overflow arena. 95,000 people in stadium, including an overflow arena, and we saw here, according to Fox News, let me see, 100 million plus streams. Do we believe that? Maybe, maybe not, but just shows you the amount of people he impacted, the amount of people that took money out of their pockets to go and pay respects to Charlie Kirk. President Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, and Kirk's widow, Erica, we've read that kind of. Members of the Trump administration spoke, including Secretary of State Marco Rubio, National Intelligence Director Tulsi Gabbard, Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles, who rarely speaks at public events. Every single person in this paragraph, other than Susie Wiles, I think it's important to say, has had some interesting headlines for the first 6 months of Trump. They've all done some interesting things. They've all made names for themselves. Good reasons, right reasons, bad reasons, up to you. But they've had pretty big headlines in the first 6 months of Trump's administration. Gabbard called Kirk Tulsi Gabbard, she's had her moments, we're not going to get into that now, called Kirk, 31 years old, fearless. By trying to silence Kirk, his voice is now louder than ever. I mean, that's a fact. His voice is now louder than ever. This last 5 words, that's a fact. The event was also a celebration of Christianity and conservative principles. Almost every speaker leaned into deeply religious themes. Some lashed out at unnamed enemies and the political left, imploring the crowd to wear the full armor of God and discussing spiritual warfare. I can't help but think They tried to silence my friend Charlie Kirk, Vance said. They tried to silence our dear friend Charlie Kirk, and today, tonight, we speak with Charlie and for Charlie louder than ever. Erica Kirk delivered one of the most emotional moments of the night, telling the packed stadium she forgave the gunman who killed her husband. She was embraced on stage by Trump, who closed the evening by reflecting on Kirk's legacy of conservative activism, calling him a martyr who did not hate his opponents. He wanted the best for them, Trump said. That's where I disagree with Charlie. I hate my opponents, and I don't want the best for them. I am sorry, Erica. I saw the clip of that. Trump kind of was like, I just got a laugh from the crowd. Let's see if we can pull the clip of Trump saying that, I hate my opponents. So, crowd of 95,000, I hate my opponents. I don't want the best for them. And
I feel like I'm a personal janitor for a 25.
For the future. This is what they're,
Shortly before Charlie arrived on campus, the day he was assassinated, a staff member texted him that there were many.
We can find something quicker. Let's see. And I don't want the best for them. Let's see if we can find it on. Let's see if we can just find it on X quickly. I'm going to put it over here. Because sometimes, it is good to hear things, especially with Trump. You like to hear the way he says it, the tone, etc., etc. Trump, Charlie, let's see, Charlie Kirk. Let's see if we can just get it really quickly. If they're not going to show it to us, we'll keep moving. Come on.
Country was robbed of one of the brightest lights of our times, a giant of his generation, and above all, a devoted husband, father, son, Christian, and patriot. Charles James Kirk was heinously murdered by a radicalized, cold-blooded monster for speaking the truth that was in his heart. He was violently killed because he spoke for freedom and justice, for God and country, for reason and for common sense. He was assassinated because he lived bravely, he led boldly, and he argued brilliantly without apology. He did what was right for our nation. And so on that terrible day, September 10th, 2025, our greatest evangelist for American liberty became immortal. He's a martyr now for American freedom. I know I speak for everyone here today when I say that none of us will ever forget Charlie Kirk, and neither now will history.
Let's see. That's not it, obviously. But you heard, that the language that they're using for how important Kirk was to the Republican Party. I'm not going to give any opinions. I already said I'm not going to do that. But you guys see celebration. Big celebration. So we'll see. This will be interesting. This will be an interesting story to continue to cover. Yeah. We'll just keep seeing how this goes. We'll keep seeing. Are we gonna continue to see Vance and Trump? And we'll just see how it goes. We'll just see what's happening. We'll see. No analyzation here, even though I kind of want to. But yeah, for more updates, for more news, the news you need to know, follow this YouTube channel, GS Studios, GSTEWDIOS on YouTube. I will be continuing to cover the stories. I don't know. Sometimes you can't give your opinion now. It's changing out here. It's changing. Whew. We have Jimmy Kimmel updates that I'm going to be doing too. Yeah, just follow, man, for the updates. It's crazy. You guys might not want to know, but you need to know. Shit, I don't want to know sometimes. That's a wrap on that. You guys have a good rest of your day.